EA has allegedly been banning Battlefield 5 players on Linux. However, it may not be as malicious as it first sounds. So if you're new to this channel, remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below because it'll really help the channel out. I'm aiming for 1,000 subs and any help would be really appreciated. So now that's out of the way, let's get started. Good afternoon everyone and welcome back to the channel. So I saw this originally on Reddit, I think like 4 or 5 days ago, but I didn't want to cover it then, just in case the story evolved more and it turned out that what actually happened wasn't actually what people were thinking. So initially, I'll show you the article that we're going to have a look at. So if we go over to my main screen. So this is an article by It's Foss talking about the situation that's occurred. The title is a little ridiculous and it's making it seem like EA is maliciously banning players on Linux. However, it might not actually be the case. So this is where all of this originally stemmed from. There was a post on the Lutris forums about this, where EA is banning DXVK on Battlefield 5. So, good friends, finally after some time, without being able to play Battlefield 5 for Linux, this week I was using Lutris 4.21. I was having fun when my anti-cheat fair fight blew me out of the game, so I was banned. As I was not using any cheating, I think the anti-cheat considered DXVK or the table layer that I used at the time as cheating. I sent an email to EA, this is an alert. So, this actually isn't the first time that this has happened. So DXVK, from my understanding, I'm not much into the Linux gaming side, but from the way that I understand, I've got the GitHub page here. It seems to be some sort of compatibility layer that'll convert DirectX calls into Vulkan calls so that you can actually run these games on Linux. If someone knows whether that's a correct explanation or not, let me know, but that's the way that I seem to understand it. So DXVK is a very common library to use alongside of Wine, which is another part of the compatibility chain used to play Windows games on Linux. And as I was saying, this isn't the first time people have been banned like this. So with Destiny 2, the exact same thing happened. And what happened there, basically, the answer that the Bungie security gave was that Destiny 2 is not supported on Proton or Wine because these compatibility layers are unable to support our full anti-cheat. This causes the game to fail to launch. If users modify Proton/Wine to force Destiny 2 to launch anyway without our full anti-cheat functionality, players may receive an account ban. So on the Proton forums, I'm guessing that's from, or the Steam forums talking about Proton, it mentions that there are some games that won't work with Proton, and those are typically games that have very complex DRM or very overzealous anti-cheat systems. So another time that this happened was with Overwatch. So this was, I think, last year. So people getting banned on Overwatch for running DXVK, but it may not be the case that people are actually getting banned. So way back in 2012, there were people who were claiming that they were getting banned for using Wine, but instead they were actually cheating and trying to blame it on that instead. So now that I've explained some of the background information, let's actually have a look at this article finally. So in a Reddit thread, a lot of Linux players seem to complain about getting banned by Fairfight, which is the server-side anti-cheat engine used for Battlefield 5, just because they chose to play Battlefield 5 on Linux using Wine. So as I said, this article is a bit extreme. I don't think it's actually malicious on EA's side. I think they're just using a very overzealous anti-cheat system, probably because it's a good anti-cheat system. I don't know. I've heard that people are saying there are a lot of cheaters on Battlefield 5, so maybe it's not that great to begin with. But anyway, so is this a widespread issue? Unfortunately, it seems to be the case with a number of Linux players using Wine to play Battlefield 5 on Linux. You can also find users on the Lutris gaming forums and the Battlefield forums talking about it. Of course, the user base on Linux playing Battlefield 5 isn't huge, but it still matters. So what exactly is the issue here? It looks like EA's anti-cheat tech considers DXVK Vulkan-based implementation of DirectX. Yeah, okay, so what I said earlier was pretty much correct. So it considers that as cheating. So basically, the compatibility layer that is being utilized to make it possible to run Battlefield 5 is being detected as a modified file through which you're potentially cheating. So similar instances of this have happened when using VMs. So typically running in a VM is going to be fine, but there are a lot of cases in the past where people actually have been considered cheating for using a VM. If you're just using a completely plain VM, it's probably going to be fine, but there are cases where that actually has happened. So even though this could be an innocent problem for the anti-cheat engine, EA does not seem to acknowledge that at all. I don't think that's the case. I think they just haven't commented on it yet. On the Lutris page, the only comment that people have gotten from EA was the email telling them that they were banned. So this was about, how long ago was this? 22 days ago. So EA, unless I've just missed something in the story, because this article came out yesterday? Yes, yesterday. Or 2 days ago at the time of this video going up. But basically, at least at this stage, EA hasn't actually made a comment about this. Here's what they respond with when one of the players wrote an email to EA in order to lift the ban. After thoroughly investigating your account and concern, we found that your account was actioned correctly and will not remove the sanction from your account. Also, with all this going on, Lutris Gaming seems to be quite furious on EA's behaviour with the permanent bans. So Lutris had this tweet here. So it has come to our attention that several Battlefield 5 players have recently been banned playing on Linux, and the EA has chosen not to revert these wrongful punishments. Due to this, we advise to refrain from playing any multiplayer games published by EA in the future. So as I mentioned with that previous article, this has happened not just with Battlefield 5, but also with Destiny. So it's very possible that they are either using the same anti-cheat system, I don't know what Destiny 2 is using, or it's another overzealous anti-cheat system that considers any sort of compatibility layer that might slightly inhibit the anti-cheat system as a way of trying to subvert it. And from the point of view of the anti-cheat system, it's functioning exactly as it should. I know that might not be a popular opinion, but the anti-cheat system was designed to function like this. It wasn't designed to work with Linux in mind, otherwise these games would have been released natively on Linux. However, that's not to say that it's a good thing that this is happening. The problem is that these companies are using these overzealous anti-cheat systems that are catching things they shouldn't be catching, at least if this is actually true. So as I said, there was that case back in 2012 where people were pretending that they were getting banned because of wine, whereas they were actually getting banned because they were cheating and they were trying to push the issue onto something else. So EA needs to address the issue. We have reached out to EA for a comment on the issue and we're still waiting for a response. So if a comment does show up, I will leave a comment down in the comment section down below so you guys can see it. I'm not going to do another video on it. It's just, unless it's something absolutely major, I'm not going to just spend another 10 minutes doing that video. Anyway, so the article will be updated if an official response from EA comes out. However, considering Blizzard as an example, they should actually work on fixing the issue and reverse the bans on players using Linux. So with that Overwatch ban that I mentioned, they actually did have most of the bans just overturned, and Blizzard actually realized, yes, this is actually a problem with our anti-cheat system. We're going to work on this. I don't know what's happened now, because this was a year ago. So I don't know if people are still getting banned for running through DXVK, but at least they had addressed it and said, okay, this is our fault. We're going to do something about this. At least at this stage, EA hasn't mentioned it. So as I've said before, if this is actually true, this all hinges on this actually being a thing that's actually happening and not a bunch of people who are cheating, who are trying to push their banned accounts onto something else besides what they were actually doing. I know that Battlefield 5 does not have native Linux support, but supporting the compatibility layer and not considering it as cheating would allow Linux users to experience the game which they rightfully own or are considering to purchase. So I know that this might not be a popular opinion, especially among the Linux gamers, but I entirely understand why a company doesn't want to support Linux, especially when they build their game from the ground up using something like DirectX. It is a very expensive process to convert your game over to something like Vulkan once you've built it up with DirectX, but I don't see any harm in trying to support these compatibility layers. That is a far, far cheaper prospect from the, I guess, eyes of the companies. It's far cheaper to do that than it is to build the game from the ground up, and I'm sure that it can't be too difficult, especially considering the amount of money these companies have to throw at a process like this. And there is a growing Linux market for video games, so I don't know, it's probably a good idea to support these compatibility layers, but I'm sure that these companies would be doing it if they thought that it was a viable business opportunity. So let's actually have a look at some of these comments, because I remember there being quite a hot take in one of these. So not this first comment here, but this one right here. So this one by Chris. This should fall under discrimination in the court of law as in digital or tech discrimination. I'm not sure how this is a thing, but it needs to be added so companies can't do this, especially for the wrong reasons. You're never going to have it signed into law that a company must support your operating system. That's completely ridiculous. They should be supporting them if there is a market for them, and I do think that there is a growing market, especially if you look at how much things like Lutris are growing and how much DXVK and Wine are growing. There are a lot of people on Linux who do want to play these games, who don't want to have to do something like run a Windows VM or dual boot Windows. I don't really know what the best solution is here, because as I said before, if there was a big enough market, I know that some people don't want to agree with this, but if there was, these companies would be on Linux because they know how much money they could make. I'm sure that they have actually looked at how much of a market share they could have on these platforms and have decided, at least at this stage, it's probably for the best to avoid Linux. I know that's an unpopular opinion. I would like these games to be on Linux as well, but there needs to be a market for it, and I'm sure that they've done their market research. So this next one in here, so all publicity is good publicity. This is a good thing for Linux gamers. If it is banned, everybody will assume it is because it offered an advantage. Okay, sure. These comments are quite an interesting place for sure. You're not going to really get any nuanced opinions in here, that's for sure. So what do you guys think? So personally, as I said, I think it's probably just a incompatibility between DXVK and between the anti-cheat systems being used in these games. I think it's far less likely that this time that it's just people who are cheating, because I've seen so many cases of it that it just seems quite unlikely that that's the case. And as I said before, there's just no reason for EA to maliciously ban people like this, because even if they don't have enough market share to natively support these platforms, there's no reason for them to just create people who are not going to buy their products. That just doesn't make any business sense. So I don't think EA is doing this maliciously. I think that they are just using a overzealous anti-cheat system that is seeing DXVK as some sort of cheating engine, and for some reason that's setting it off. But let me know what you guys think down below. So if you like this video, remember to smash that like button and leave me a comment down below letting me know what you think. If you want to see more videos like this, remember to subscribe and ding the little bell icon down below, because it'll really help the channel out. I'm aiming for 1,000 subs, and any help would be really appreciated. Up on that corner, I've got the playlist this video is in, so go check that out if you want to see other videos like this. It'll probably be tech news. I haven't done a tech news video in a while, so there's not much in that playlist. Down below, I've got my Discord, so if you want to chat with me, that's the best place to go. I will respond to comments on YouTube, but it's far easier to get into a conversation when I'm on something like Discord. Also down below is my library, so if you want to see my videos on a platform that isn't YouTube, that's the best place to go for that. Also, I've got my support links down below, so if you'd like to support the channel, go there. I've got a couple of crypto wallets, my Patreon, and a PayPal, so any of those will be really appreciated, but obviously you don't have to support the channel if you don't feel like doing it. Everything will remain available for free. And lastly, I've got my Twitter and my Mastodon, so if you want to get video updates, that's the best place to go for that. And I think that's pretty much everything for me now, so I'm out.